The show has begun. We have saluted our vets and troops, which can only mean one thing. It is now time to play everyone's favorite game. If I go crazy, will you still call me Supermarket? I'm going to ask each of you 3 questions about the American supermarket, and you are going to look up to your God and Lord and Savior above and try to get this question right. Because if you lose, you lose.
Pride.
You lose your pride.
In the name of love. The Father,
Amen.
And the Son. And the Holy Ghost.
Who would like to go first? Great. Emmett, you're up first.
All right.
What day of the week is the busiest grocery shopping day?
Sunday.
For the Steel?
Saturday.
Saturday is correct, as Elton John would say. Joe, I will accept an answer within 20 minutes of the correct answer. How long does the average grocery shopping trip take?
1 hour. Average?
Average.
40 minutes.
41 minutes.
Yeah.
Wow, Emmett, you're going to have to dig out of this hole.
This is not fair. I work at a grocery store. Why wouldn't I be good at this?
Emmett, what supermarket chain sells more groceries than anywhere else in the United States?
What are we classifying as a grocery store? Like,
I can't say anymore. I cannot say anymore.
I'm gonna go Target.
For the Steel.
Whole Foods?
You are both incorrect. Walmart has 16% of the market cornered. Joe, which supermarket was the first in the United States of America?
Piggly Wiggly?
Piggly Wiggly is correct. Was that a part of the training video?
No, I just know that.
It was founded in 1916 in Memphis, Tennessee. Emmett, what is the average age of a grocery shopper? 5 years either way. You get five years to your favor.
33.
For the Steel, Joe.
45.
44 years old. Wow.
I do this all day long. I look at these people. I consider their lives.
All right. I'm going to give you $20 in either direction. What is the average weekly grocery bill for a family of 4?
$85. Family of 4?
Yes.
$150.
For the Steel, Emmett.
$165.
The correct answer is $121.50. $45 if you're single.
45 if you're single for a week?
Mm-hmm.
Who are these freaks?
Me.
Eating out? Getting takeout all the time?
Hubba.
Oh, my.
This is Deep Dive Divas. Each episode, myself and a guest diva listen to every blessed studio album by an artist of their choosing and share our findings with Hugh.
Lori.
Our guest today is Emmett. Emmett is a student, a son, a brother, but not to me, and also the lead singer and guitarist of the Jet Planes, whose music you can and should check out in today's show notes. Emmett, why did you choose Big Star for today's program?
They definitely had an impact on a lot of things in terms of my music life. Specifically, not exactly my group's sound, but I always sort of wanted to achieve a sound that was similar to Big Star before I even knew what their sound was really made up of. I'd say my influences really, definitely lead towards like mid-60s like garage and like British Invasion. And
The British are coming.
Cheerio! All my fans are going crazy.
In the stands. At Wembley Stadium right now, there are 500,000 people.
Cheerio!
Cheerio. Cheerio. The lights go out. People are losing their goddamn minds. Children are being born, being sucked back into their placenta, and then regurgitated once more through the mouth.
And then I walk up to the mic.
Those babies now are delivered through a natural vaginal birth. Not that that is the only correct way to be born. A cesarean is absolutely valid. It doesn't make you any less of a mother.
You could even be born in a tube.
You should be born in a tube.
It would be better. It'd be
What
easier.
a wonderful world if we were all born in a tube. Your
It'd be
thoughts
a lot
on this,
easier on
Emmett?
mothers.
Oh, I mean, I was born in the tube.
That's all the time we have today for Tube Talk. Go on. The British invasion.
Yeah, the British
The British
invasion.
are coming.
Say,
You like the Kinks?
I do very much.
Do you like the Beatles?
I do.
How about the
The Who?
Kinks?
Oh yeah, and then the group who I also think probably sounds like Big Star the most is actually the Birds
Sure.
Why-
With a Y.
with a Y.
They're at the
Wall
Y.
Street
The
guitar.
California Birds. But I think like their synthesis of like all those groups, like I said, was really what I was trying to do. And I had heard Number One Record before when I was really into, I'll call my years becoming me, which were not dark, but they definitely were intense emotionally. Music obviously was what I would turn to and still do for everything.
And murder.
Oh yeah, on the side.
For money.
Of course. And
When do you think you're going to come out about being on the grassy knoll, November 22nd, 1963?
tomorrow.
Exclusive.
The
A
world.
summertime exclusive, babe.
Well, I have to tell the world
Yeah.
this now.
Are you going to wear board shorts? Who are you wearing?
Who am I wearing? I'm gonna wear an Ivanka Trump mask.
Oh.
Ooh. So you're going to do it masked.
Oh yeah.
You're going to reveal?
And I'm gonna reveal, and I'll be like, "This is who you've been looking for this entire time."
I like it. A flair for the theatrical flair.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll probably have some bell bottoms and then some platform boots, and then I'll be rocking it, and then we're on.
And then you pull out a guitar.
And then I pull out a guitar.
Like John Hinckley.
Sure.
Hey, Brother
Are you
John.
jealous of him?
Am I jealous?
Yeah.
Well,
He got to live with the. Okay, you were more successful on the murder front, but less successful in living after
Yeah.
the fact.
yeah,
He's mounting a national tour right now.
I know.
Come on
I've
now.
seen a couple of his
Come on now.
interviews. Yeah, I don't know.
Is he like your enemy?
Sometimes.
How do you feel about his music?
Do you think he's cute?
Very much so.
Will he sign my yearbook?
Will I?
No. John Hinckley Jr.
I don't know about
I'm sorry, I
that.
mean, if you want,
I don't know
I
about
could
that.
find page 57 is a little sparse. I could probably you could.
All right, cool.
We'll talk about it later. Okay.
Cool.
So, Big Star is a band that I have found throughout my life, like, not a lot of people seem to know about.
I agree.
Why do you think that is?
I was talking about this with my dad and also my mom, who are both very musical people. You know, there's many groups that are or artists that are in, like, I would call them the first column, which I would say is like your Dylans, your Stones, your Beatles, your Beach Boys, in terms of like having a slew of just great material and being at the top of their game and just being
For
you
a
know,
really long
for a really
time,
long
too.
time. And then there's groups who are also like are in the second tier that maybe like produced a lot of work and were really influential, but not a lot of people have heard of them.
So, Big Star is a band that was founded in Memphis, Tennessee. Howdy, y'all.
Yeehaw.
1971. Big Star is comprised of Alex Chilton on guitar and vocals, Chris Bell also on guitar and vocals, Jody Stevens on the drums, and Andy Hummel on the bass guitar.
Jody Stevens, the cute one.
Sure. Their first 3 records are all listed on Rolling Stone's top 500 albums of all time.
As they should.
Follow me back, if you will, to 1967, when a 16-year-old kid is stepping up to the mic to sing on a track called The Letter with a group known as the Box Tops. And that kid was me. No, it was Alex Chilton.
When she wrote me a letter, said she couldn't live I got to get back to my baby once more. Anyway, yeah, a ticket for an aeroplane. Ain't got time to take a fast train. Lonely days are gone, I'm a going home. My baby used to look me a letter.
16-year-old Alex Chilton is singing his heart out on the letter, and he will serve as an active member of the Box Tops for 3 years until 1970. Inspired by Spiro Agnew's Dreamy Bod, he quits the band because he's gonna go solo, baby. He was also offered a gig as the lead singer of Blood, Sweat, and Tears.
Yeah.
Really?
That would have been amazing. So Alex Chilton approaches another guy, another Memphis musician, Chris Bell, to make a band with him, and he kind of wants to fashion themselves in the mold of like a Simon and Garfunkel. And Chris Bell says, "No."
Nah.
That's good.
But do you want to come watch my band Ice Water rehearse? And Chilton says, "Okay."
That's okay.
It's kind of like if you ask someone out on a date and they're like, "No, but do you want to come watch me date someone else?" So Chilton goes to watch Ice Water perform.
melt.
And after this performance, Chilton shows them an acoustic version of Watch the Sunrise, which will later be on Big Star's first record. And they say, "Why don't you join the band?" So he gets shot down by Chris. So now in our analogy, he has asked Chris to date him. Chris said, "No, come see who else I'm dating." And then he goes and hangs out with them. And then they say, "Why don't we all date together?" So Chilton is now in the band, and they name themselves Big Star after a supermarket chain in and around the Memphis area, where they would often get snacks when they were at recording sessions. So they spent 1971 recording their first record, which will be released under the name Number One Record. And they actually, that is brilliant. Number One Record
By
as
Big
your
Star.
debut.
Big Star.
So good.
Beautiful.
And then anytime anyone talks about it, you have to say it's Big Star's number one record.
Even though they never had a number one record,
And they never will.
unfortunately. You never know.
I think I know.
I think I know that too.
So, Number One Record is released. The cover of it is literally the insignia for Big Star, the supermarket chain, but they just removed the word star from it. So it's just the word big and then
Inside
in a
of a
neon light star.
Which, by the way, great cover.
It's a fantastic
Yeah.
cover. It looks super cool, but it's just funny that they're like, well, we'll just clip
take
this
this.
part out. Alex Chilton and Chris Bell kind of wanted to style themselves in like a McCartney-Lennon sort of relationship. So two fellas record this album. Terry Manning and John Fry like physically recorded the record, but they get listed as producers because the band wanted them to. They maintain to this day, this is John Fry speaking, quote, "The band themselves really produced these records." John Fry would go on to say, "We started recording the songs with the intent that if it turned out okay, we'd put it out. I recorded all the tracks, and then they would often come late at night and do overdubs. One by one, they all learned enough engineering." So they're really like getting a massive education here from these two guys. And I think they were very grateful for that, and that's why they gave them the producer credit. But they felt that the band really did the lion's share of the work. Number One Record comes out, and it is critically acclaimed in a massive way. Billboard writes, every cut could be a single.
They're stretching, but it's close.
Yeah.
There ain't no one going to turn me around. Ain't no one going to turn me around. Ain't no one going to turn me around. Ain't no one going to turn me.
It seems that anyone who hears this record loves it. They think it's fantastic. The biggest critics down to just your average everyday fans. If they happen to hear a Big Star song, they seem to love it. Here's the issue. Not a lot of people heard it. Because of a few different reasons. What it really comes down to is bad marketing and bad distributions. So the band actually does take some initiative to try to get on the air, and they're like sending this out by hand to radio stations, and they get a decent amount of airplay. The trouble is then the people who they hear it go down to the record shop, and they can't buy a physical copy of this record. Again, this is 1972. Your Napsters, your LimeWires.
I can't imagine how frustrating that would be.
Because I know.
I can't.
I mean,
especially for someone like me who's younger than the two of you guys. Like, I mean, like, I literally, like, an iPhone was made when I was 6. You know,
Sure.
It's like that stuff was just always been
So-
there
Sure.
and so accessible to me.
So Stax realizes that they are dropping the ball, not just with Big Star, but with a bunch of their acts, and they sign a distribution deal with Columbia, where Columbia has distribution networks. They have the ability to press records and physically move them out. Here's the issue. Columbia doesn't want to work with all these small town indie distributors that Stax had signed with. So Columbia says, we're just not going to work with them anymore. And furthermore, we want to basically negate all the work that these places done. So we want to recall all the records that were sent out. So not only were they not sending more Big Star records out, but they were actually pulling any Big Star records off the shelf, making it virtually impossible. Like, there was basically like a black market for Big Star records going on at this time.
Insane.
The band is obviously furious because they have like the biggest journalists in the field of music telling them, you're great, this record is amazing, you're gonna blow up. I think it was Paste said something along the lines of like, we haven't heard the last of these guys. But the thing is, a lot of people couldn't hear it, right?
Yeah.
So the band starts becoming extremely stressed out, and they start taking that out physically upon one another. During a disagreement, Andy Hummel punches Chris Bell in the face, who then smashes Andy Hummel's brand new bass guitar against a wall. Then Andy Hummel retaliates by taking a screwdriver, finding Chris Bell's guitar abandoned in a car, and punching holes into it. Chris Bell quits the band in November of 1972. And the band kind of licks their wounds, they reconvene, and they work on a second record. And Chris Bell comes back into the fold. You know, it was a heated moment. Things were out of control. They were all very upset with how things had gone with the first record. They wanted to, they had to vent somehow, and that turned out to be in a very destructive manner. But they're all good now. They're going to keep working. While they are working on album number 2, a master tape goes missing. Tell everyone why that would be such a massive issue.
So your master tape is essentially what is going to be sent to any type of pressing plant for whether you're pressing vinyl. Well, in this case, it would be vinyl because it's the 70s, but it's essentially just a reel-to-reel. And that's where you can't replace it. It's the master.
It's all
Yeah,
of the
it's
work that
everything.
you have done.
Yeah.
Just
In its final
down
form.
the tubes.
And also in this era particularly, it's mixed. So you might have all of your tapes. You don't have all of how they sound together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you'd have to do that entire component of mixing it and mastering it again.
Yeah. You might be able to put it back together, but you have to pay a lot of money to do that.
Oh, yeah. And you have to put a lot of time in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you probably going to have to record some stuff again.
And this is a band that doesn't have any success yet to go off of financially. So this is a huge loss. And Chris Bell loses it in a drug-fueled rage where he goes out into the parking lot and attacks producer John Fry's car and then quits the band.
Drama queen.
And that's it. He's now done. He spends the rest of the next few years going around the world working on a solo career. So the band breaks up after Chris Bell departs. And they will do nothing for the last few months of 1972. Early 1973, without Chris Bell, they get back together in the studio and they say, we put so much work and time and effort into this. Even though that master tape went missing, we want to continue working on this. Jody Stevens says of this record, for me, it was just an amazing record. Being a three-piece really opened things up for me in terms of playing the drums. Drums take on a different role in a three-piece band. This record was really more spontaneous, and the performances were pretty close to the live performances.
You can definitely hear that too on the record.
For
too.
sure, he's branching
Yeah,
out way,
yeah.
way more. And I never really thought of it as a three-piece, but it is, you know. This record is named Radio City. So Chris Bell, before he quit the band for the second time, had actually helped write a couple of songs that were going to be on this record, including Oh My Soul and Back of a Car, but he does not get writing credit for this. And Emmett, I do believe Oh My Soul is your...
My Yummy Yummy song.
Why do you love Oh My Soul?
Well, we've done it. I've actually done it live. We've actually opened with it. The lyrics make no sense, but I always love the way the song was structured.
Radio City is also home to my Yummy Yummy song,
Alrighty.
Life is White.
Hell yeah.
Don't like to see your face. Don't like to hear you talk at all. And I don't want to see you now. 'Cause I know what you like. And I can't go back to that.
To me, it's got great energy, and I think it's Big Star at their best, where there's definitely a sort of malaise and sadness to what they're singing about, and the style of the song, but it also is energetic. I also think it would be like, it would fit right in with like OK Go or other like modern power pop acts. It feels very recent to me, and
I agree.
I thought-
Especially that song.
Yeah.
I always thought, like,
for 1974, it
Yeah.
would fit right in with like early aughts music.
I agree. And I said this in my thing, but I think Radio City is probably the record where I can hear the most of, say, the REMs, the Wilcos, the Replacements that really
For
pulled
sure.
from that sort of jangly guitar sound because, like you said, the guitar is just so primitive on that record specifically.
Rolling Stone said, sometimes they sound like the Byrds, sometimes like the early Who, but usually like their own indescribable selves. And that to me is like, anytime I would try to tell someone who Big Star sounds like, I could always throw some of those names out. But at the end of the day, like, they did, I think, make something totally unique
Yeah.
and all their own that people have been emulating for 50 years
Yeah,
now.
they sound more like the bands that came after them than the bands that they were
Yeah,
trying to sound
I
like.
agree.
Before the record's even finished, Andy Hummel quits the band to return to his final year of college. Also, I read a couple quotes where he kind of said, like, this lifestyle is a little too chaotic. I mean, having
If
his
you're in a
instrument...
band with Alex Chilton,
Yeah,
I think
sure.
I think it's got to be pretty erratic.
Speaking of William Burroughs, it's not the drugs, it's the lifestyle.
So now it is Alex Chilton and Jody Stevens, who that's pretty much who it's going to be for quite some time here. Radio City comes out, and
It's the same
just like
story.
number one records, they sell about 20,000 copies of this record, which to me is like, that's a lot of copies. But for them, like, for the contemporaries, even on a bad album, that would have been in the millions.
I mean,
you know?
this is truly like indie rock at
Yes.
the beginning of
Yeah,
it.
yeah. In September of 1974, Alex Chilton and Jody Stevens go back to Arden Studios to record the third record, and they are joined by a bunch of studio musicians, Alex Chilton's then girlfriend, Lisa Aldridge, and producer Jim Dickinson. I think a lot of people who are listening to this will be familiar with his work, but
Yeah.
might not know who he is.
He was associated with Muscle Shoals in the late 60s, was a session guy, did a lot of engineering work. He played a piano, and he's in the movie Gimme Shelter, the Stones movie.
Yeah.
He played on
Yeah.
Wild Horses. Yeah.
And he played on a lot of Aretha Franklin, I know that. He's a keyboardist
He's kind
mainly.
of everywhere.
And he's just a
yeah.
very, and then he was called in to produce this with Alex. I think he
Yep.
just kind of knew him from the sort of box top scene. He was just kind of around the same circle. And
In
then-
1975, the band finishes recording and mixing the record, and they send John Fry and Jim Dickinson out to the East and West Coast, to New York, and California.
Los Angeles?
You are too hot. To try to get any label to sign the band. They're like, please.
And everybody said when would go, they're like, "You're ruining Chilton's career."
Yep.
That's what they were told when
Yep.
they tried to get a label. for it.
Everyone who listened to this, they said, John Fry said, quote, "We go in and play it, and these guys would look at us like we were crazy." Like, everyone thought this record was absolute garbage. Jim Dickinson later will say that he was, quote, "nailed for indulging Alex, but I think it is important that the artist is enabled to perform with integrity. What I did for Alex was literally remove the yoke of oppressive production." I don't know if he literally removed any yokes. Of oppressive production that he had been under since the first time he ever uttered a word into a microphone, for good or ill. Everyone thought that this was going to kill Big Star, but here's the thing. This record can't kill Big Star if Big Star kills Big Star. The band breaks up before the record is even named. So years go by here. The record is finished in 1975, and for 3 years, nothing happens. Until the first two records, Number One Hit and Radio City, are re-released in the UK. And people are now able to get copies of it. And people love this. Those limey fascists are lining up
Cheerio.
to buy a copy of the Big Star records. And the record label goes, hold on, we might have something here. At the time of the recording, Alex and Jody are dating sisters Lisa and Holiday Aldridge. And this is the third Big Star record. So this hitherto unreleased record is named Third / Sister Lovers, as Paris Hilton would say. That's hot.
Would you agree this is their horniest record?
Oh, yeah.
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 I mean, I've heard at least 2 trumpets. In this same year, right after Third / Sister Lovers comes out, Chris Bell drives his car into a curb. 100 feet later, he hits a pole with his car. His body during the autopsy is void of any drugs and or alcohol. There is a bottle of vitamins in the car with him. And Chris Bell dies.
At 27.
Third / Sister Lovers is home to my yuck icky track, Downs.
Take down.
I hate it. I hate
That
I
was
hate
almost
everything.
gonna be mine.
Dance. Things sinking with a melody. Someone's gonna ask you if you graduated. But as for you, throw down. Isolated as far as you go. I'm well versed and the walls are worst and the windows are most wind down.
It's annoying. It's uninspired. It doesn't need to be here. It made what could have been otherwise a very interesting and tight record into 1 track longer and annoying. You've got 3 covers on this record: Nature Boy, Femme Fatale by the Velvet Underground,
forgot. End of the
Till the
Day,
End of the Day by the
Kinks.
Kinks. And I actually like their version better than the Kinks, and it's one of my favorite Kinks songs.
It is a good
Wow.
Kinks song.
Yeah.
I think both are great. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I get up, I see the sun, and I feel good, yeah, 'cause my life is begun. You and me were free, yeah, we do as we please, yeah, from morning till the end of the day, till the end of the day, oh yeah.
So throughout the 1980s, even though Big Star is no longer a band, they're still somehow active. The record label Rykodisc, who had attained ownership of their catalog at this time, starts reprinting a bunch of their albums, making them much more widely available, just in time, a decade after they came out. You do have some pretty prominent acts like the Replacements and REM who are covering Big Star, or in the case of the Replacements, literally writing songs about Alex Chilton and Big Star.
Who had a role in promoting the Replacements? Is that
He
not-
did,
He
yes.
did. He got them signed to Sire.
Right?
Correct.
Pretty amazing.
Children by the millions, people Alex
In 1993, Jody and Alex get back together down at the University of Missouri
It's the University of Missouri.
for the Spring Music Festival down there. And they tack on to the bill 2 members of the rock group The Posies, one Ken Stringfellow,
Canceled.
now disgraced, and John Auer. I guess that's how you say it.
Yes,
A-U-E-R.
I think so.
Andy Hummel, the original bassist, doesn't want back in the band, so they go on without him. Ken Stringfellow, again now canceled, says, quote, "We were working out the set list and we went into this little cafe. Little did I know we'd be playing that set for the next 10 years. And this formation of the band will go on tour of Japan, of Europe. They even go on The Tonight Show with, have you heard about this? You hear about this?
Oh God.
The insufferable Canadian tuxedo card collector himself, Jay Leno, where they perform in the street the song. They play in the studio. They were allowed in the building.
For those at home, that's the theme song to That 70s Show.
Down the street, the same old thing we did last week. Not a thing to do, talk to you.
Covered by Cheap Trick.
Yes.
In 1998, the band records their first new song in a long time called Hot Thing, which is about you, Joe. For a Big Star tribute album entitled Big Star, Small World. Here's the thing. It was supposed to come out on Ignition Records. It's the freaking weekend, baby. And it doesn't. For 8 years, nothing happens with this tribute record in classic Big Star fashion.
Yep.
Because Ignition Records breaks up and goes under. In 2004, the band records a new record co-written by Chilton Stevens, John Auer, and Ken Stringfellow. This record will be released in September of 2005, entitled In Space!
Sure.
Overall, I think this is their worst record. It feels disjointed. It doesn't really sound like Big Star to me. It's not offensively bad. It's
No,
just
it's I thought there were some decent tunes on there. It's definitely not embarrassing.
It starts
And,
strong.
It definitely the opening tune I really like. Isn't this like the last stuff like he ever like put out
Yep.
for the most part?
Yeah.
Yeah, really?
Yep.
Well, his last solo record is like 1999.
Yeah,
I
this is
or
it.
98, something like that.
So for the next 5 years, this
He's
is
probably sick.
this is Big Star. They're going around the world playing old and now a more recent Big Star record. In March, the same week that they are supposed to play at South by Southwest, Alex Chilton is out mowing his lawn in New Orleans when he passes away. It's actually announced on C-SPAN. So instead of playing South by Southwest in March, a concert will actually be organized as a tribute to Big Star, which will feature Andy Hummel, he's back, baby. Jody Stevens, he never left, baby. John Doe of X.
Oh yeah.
Mike Mills of REM. M. Ward, Evan Dondo of the Lemonheads. So 4 months after Alex Chilton passes away, Andy Hummel, fresh off of reuniting for this tribute concert with Jody Stevens, passes away from cancer in August. So Rolling Stone magazine that same year asked Jody Stevens, "What are you going to do? This has been your life since, for the past 40 plus years." And Jody says, quote, "I can't see us going out as Big Star, but I would hate to compound the loss of Alex by saying, that's it for Ken and John too. I can't imagine not playing with them. They're so much fun." 'Cause you have to remember, now at this point, he's been playing with these two guys for like a decade.
Right.
Yeah.
Longer than the original
I
lineup
know.
of Big Star by a considerable amount of time. So they continue playing concerts as a group called Big Star's Third, all the way up until about 2017. April 2017 is the last time I saw them listed as that name. But Emmett, you've actually seen them just this past November. Can you tell us what
have.
that was like? They weren't billed as Big Star's third, but they were like, what was it? The Songs of Big Star.
Yeah,
or something
and
like
it
that.
essentially was, Big Star's Third has, a sort of rotating cast of a lot of musicians that will come through. Like Mike Mills has done it a bunch of times, and I think Michael Stipe has been at some too, and a lot of the REM guys have come through. And at this one, this was in November of 2021. It was originally announced as the Two Posies were going to be there, but then Ken Stringfellow got canceled. So he
for
was
sexual assault allegations, which he denies.
Multiple and recent.
It was Jody singing a lot. Mike Mills sang some songs. Chris Stamey of the group The DBs, who was a very early flag waver for Big Star, definitely. And then I met Jody, and then I spoke to Jody afterwards, very briefly, and he was a very, very nice guy. A very nice guy. And, hasn't aged at all.
Yeah, he looks fabulous.
Still the cute one.
Mm-hmm.
By default.
In 2012, a documentary is released about Big Star called Big Star, Nothing Can Hurt Me Now. Would you like to put a backwards message in for our listeners?
Yvonne Net Niaj.
I was going to have you say something for it, and then I'd reverse it for you. What did you just say?
Join the Navy.
Each episode, we like to highlight the up-and-coming work of a discography-developing diva. Today, that is The Dead Speak. The Dead Speak are a band from Louisville, Kentucky. They are what it would sound like if Ouija boards played music. It is now time to pump it up when you don't really need it, with The Dead Speak and their track, I'm Your Cadaver.
I'm your cadaver tonight. Lay me down and see what's inside. Find how I died and have a sick, sad fun. Just remember,
hear more from The Dead Speak, contact us to submit your own music for consideration, view our citations, listen to a playlist of our favorite Big Star songs, and support Deep Dive Divas by following the links in this episode's show notes. We have ranked each studio album by Big Star on a scale of 1 to 10 as a whole. Emmett, what is the best Big Star record?
I put Radio City, mostly because I think that's probably the one that, like I said, truly has the later sounds of like a lot of 80s groups. And, there definitely is a difference between number one and Radio City, and I think that's because there's no Chris on the second one.
Right.
And you kind of mentioned this a little bit. It's like number one, it doesn't have like a 70s sound to it, but there is a little Zeppelin in there. There is a little of like, I don't want to call it like singer-songwritery stuff, but like some of the acoustic stuff does definitely sound early 70s. But Radio City, I mean, that does not sound anything like the 70s. It sounds like, a 60s record that was meant to be put out in the 80s. Which is essentially what I always think of it as.
And you gave it a 10. You gave it a
I think there is
score.
not. I don't think there's a bad tune on there.
Right there with you.
Loved Radio City as well. It's my second favorite. My first is third. Because I think it has the highest highs. It also, in my opinion, has the lowest lows, like downs. But for me, just like Thank You Friends, Big Black Car, Jesus Christ. It's got everything on here that I think could have been a massive hit if everything didn't systemically go wrong for this band. And what is the dang worst album by
In
Big Star?
Space.
Why?
Well, look at what you're up against versus three records that really, I think each one definitely sets a blueprint for many acts to follow. And it's very hard to match that creative chemistry and quality and freshness. And, it's not embarrassing as a record, like we all said, but, it's no Radio City, and it's definitely no third.
Sure.
So I would not rank it as up there.
Yeah, I don't have a ton of tracks aside from Makeover that were notably bad, but I also only had one track that was notably good to me, and it was actually the instrumental, Aria Lago. I really like that song. I thought it was great.
It's fine.
But yeah, I am in total lockstep with you on that one. And it's also a shame that it is kind of the last thing Alex Chilton's going to record.
I feel like he lived a pretty good life. I
Yeah.
don't weep for Alex. I think he did what he wanted.
He died doing what he loved,
Mowing
mowing
lawn.
his suburban lawn.
Oh yeah.
Emmett, thanks for coming out.
Thank you for having me.
Good game.
All right.